AI isn't coming. It's already transforming marketing and business. See how at Maycon 2025, October 14th through 16th in Cleveland. Evergreen Podcasts is proud to be the official podcast partner, recording live on-site and meeting with more than 1,500 marketing leaders. You'll learn from leaders at Google Cloud, Meta, Snowflake, and HeyGen, sharing what's working and what isn't. Transformation starts here. And with our special code, PODS200, you'll save $200 off your ticket. Join us at the Huntington Convention Center. Register today at Maycon.ai. That's MAICON.ai.
This is The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. I'd be willing to bet that as much as you think about running, you're also thinking about food. You've got to be sure you're eating before your runs, but not too much and not too soon. Then you've got to plan what to eat during your run if you're running long enough. And you'd better plan both of those things very carefully, or you're risking an upset stomach, side stitches, or even worse, the dreaded mid-run bathroom stop. So how is it that some runners seem to have stomachs of steel while others barely make it through a run without some kind of GI disaster? Of course, there's probably some genetics involved, but the real key is training your stomach. How? Let's find out. Welcome to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic, and my mission is to help you improve your running, your mindset, and your life with science-backed training and plant-based nutrition. On today's episode, I am going to go over how to train your stomach, just like you train your legs. You'll learn what causes upper and lower GI issues on the run, how you can avoid this while still getting the fuel you need, and I'll reveal some sneaky culprits that might be the real issue. By the way, have you gotten my free fueling guide yet? I know you're probably on the run right now, so you're not exactly taking notes, but I've got you covered. I'll remind you again at the end of the show about the free fueling guide, or you can get it now at theplantedrunner.com/join. It's no secret that running can be pretty rough on the stomach. Even the idea of nausea or diarrhea is enough to keep many runners from fueling adequately before a run, which is certainly costing them in slower performance and recovery. How much should you be consuming? Well, current fueling guidelines are about 30 to 90 grams of carbohydrate per hour, or 120 to 360 calories per hour during any run or race longer than an hour. And that's not even taking into account what you should be eating before or after the run. Suffice it to say, there's not too many people on the planet that can consume that much without practice. The good news is that just like your leg muscles, the stomach can be trained to be able to handle the rigors of running without getting sick. Let's begin with what is going on inside you. As you run, your body decides that you must be running away from a saber-toothed tiger or chasing down a water buffalo for dinner, so digestion on the run becomes less of a priority. So the blood that normally would go to the stomach and the gut instead gets diverted to the working muscles to power your run. So whatever is left in your stomach gets bounced around and digests much more slowly than it would be if you were lying on the couch. All that bouncing on a full or even partially full stomach can cause that uncomfortable feeling in your tummy. Not every runner's system reacts the same way, so you and your running buddy might experience different symptoms, even with the same breakfast on the same run. Some runners can have more upper digestive symptoms, such as burping, reflux, nausea, or even vomiting, while others have mid or lower intestinal pain, causing a very uncomfortable run and unexpected porta potty stops. So runners need to learn what kind of foods cause trouble on the run and what kind of timing of meals before runs works the best to keep your belly happy. It's pretty obvious that downing an extra spicy bean burrito immediately before a run is a high-risk idea, but there are other culprits that might take a little experimenting to discover. The first problem could be dehydration. If you're not properly hydrated, especially when running in warm weather, Your stomach complaining might be the first sign. Remember, running causes blood to flow away from the stomach. So if you're beginning the run dehydrated, it will get worse as you run if you don't manage it. A little dehydration during a long run isn't going to hurt your performance, but once you start losing around 2% of your body weight, most runners start to struggle. On the other hand, the opposite issue can cause problems too. If you're overhydrated, the sloshing of liquid in your belly can be very painful. The trick is that you sip instead of chug and you don't drink too much. This can be a big issue in long races like the marathon when runners try to stick to a predetermined hydration schedule that's not actually based on what is happening in the moment. If your stomach feels full, stop drinking. Just as too much fluid is a problem, the same goes with too much food. A normal-sized meal will take about 2 to 3 hours to digest properly, so be sure you're not running right after a big meal. But you don't want to run totally empty either, especially when you've got a long run or a big workout. If you're running long in the morning, that means you'll want to get up early enough to have breakfast and let it mostly digest. Some runners love oatmeal, but that never sat well with me. 2 slices of toast with peanut butter and banana made my stomach happy, so that's what I would eat every single time. I also recommend finding an easy-to-digest food that you can always eat in the hour before a run as a snack. Think about the foods that your mom might have given you when you stayed home sick. Bland, soft, easy to digest. Popular choices are bananas, dates, maybe a little juice or some graham crackers. My pre-run food was always a couple of fig bars, which are easy to keep stocked and they travel well. Having a go-to food like this can be really helpful on race day to pre-fuel your race without getting full or having too much jostling in your stomach. And that brings me to my next culprit, and that is trying new things before a run. That new gel that your friend uses or the latest energy bar might be a nice change if you always eat the same thing, but it can also be an unwelcome surprise on your belly. Experiment with new things on training runs or tune-up races that you're not highly invested in, and that way you can get valuable intel about what works and what doesn't. Ready to get into fueling on the run? I'll go over that when we come back. Race day is coming. And with it, the restless nights, the racing thoughts, and the doubts that creep in when everything is on the line. I know that feeling because I've been there too. And the breakthrough for me came when I finally stopped just training my body and started training my mind. That's when I learned how to turn nerves into calm, doubts into focus, and fear into confidence. You can learn to do this too with Find Your Flow State. It's my guided meditation course that I built just for runners, so you can have the mental clarity and focus right when you need it most. To quiet your thoughts the night before, to steady your energy on race morning, to center you before the gun goes off, and to lift you up in those miles when everything feels impossible. The more you listen, the more natural it becomes until stepping onto that starting line feels calm, powerful, and your dreams become inevitable. Go to theplantedrunner.com/flowstate to get started today, because the strongest muscle in the body is the mind. The Planted Runner is sponsored by Liquid IV. You've been sweating through the summer and finally cooler temperatures of the fall are on their way. But that doesn't mean that you should lose focus on proper hydration for running and for life. Now is the perfect time to stock up on Liquid IV's new Energy Multiplier, sugar-free hydrating energy. It's scientifically formulated to support physical energy, hydration, focused mood, and even social stamina. You already know that it hydrates better than water for your runs and your workouts, but it's also perfect for when you feel run down after a long night out, and it's what I have in my carry-on anytime I'm hopping on a flight. I especially love the blackberry lemonade flavor. Don't just power through your day, ditch the glitch with zero sugar and zero crash from Liquid IV. Tear, pour, live more. Go to liquidiv.com and get 20% off your first order with code PLANTED at checkout. And that's 20% off your first order with code PLANTED. planted@liquidiv.com. Welcome back to The Planted Runner. I'm Coach Claire Bartholic. Gels are a pretty cool race fuel. They are portable, convenient, and they're scientifically designed to give your racing muscles exactly what they need. They are also notorious for causing GI issues, especially late in a race. And so are most popular sports drinks. The reason they work so well is that the sugar moves quickly to the bloodstream. But if you don't train your stomach to handle it, you might find yourself too sick to take any more calories by mile 16. Train often with what you will use on race day to be sure what flavors and brands will work for you. I recommend researching what will be given out on your race course. If you can train well with the products given out for free on the course, you'll have a lot less to carry on you on race day. While too much sugar can be an issue, too much protein, fat, and fiber can also lead to trouble. These nutrients take longer to digest, so if they're still in your system during your run, your body might decide it wants to eject them as soon as possible. I'm not saying you should eliminate these healthy foods from your diet, but just watch how closely you eat fiber before a run. Next up is caffeine. Caffeine is the most widely used legal performance-enhancing drug. Your pre-run coffee wakes you up, helps move things along in the bathroom, and helps lower your perception of effort when you run. But taking in too much or not balancing it with food can cause major issues. I know this firsthand because caffeine was a big factor in the one marathon I started that I didn't finish. Long story short, I took in too much caffeine with too little food and started feeling sick to my stomach at mile 4. I had only practiced taking in that much caffeine on one long run, and clearly it was not enough. If you've tried everything that I've mentioned and you're still having issues, I suggest you get very detailed and start logging your food to see if you can find any clues. You could have an undiagnosed food allergy or an intolerance, or you could have some kind of medical condition like celiac disease or irritable bowel syndrome. Those conditions typically have other symptoms than just feeling sick on the run, so keep a journal of when you're feeling off to see if you can make a connection. But what if you don't typically feel sick on the run, but the thought of food after a run turns your stomach? You know that you need to get in your recovery foods, but they're really hard to stomach for you right away. The first thing to know is that you don't have to force feed yourself right after a run. The idea that there is a very tight recovery window has largely been discounted by recent research, so try to get in at least a few sips of water immediately, and then go ahead and take a shower and relax a little bit until your appetite comes back. Let me repeat that. The 30-minute recovery window is a myth unless you are planning a second workout later in the day. You obviously don't want to wait the entire day before eating again, but an hour or two really isn't going to make too much of a difference. It's far better to eat real whole foods when you're ready instead of forcing down some kind of highly processed protein concoction just because you're trying to hit some magic recovery window that, again, really does not exist. Like almost everything running, you've got to experiment with what works for you, and once you find something that seems to work, stick with it as much as you can, because running is supposed to be good for you, not make you sick. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I've got a completely free ultimate fueling guide for runners that you can use to plan what to eat before, during, and after all of your runs. Get your copy today at theplantedrunner.com/join. That's theplantedrunner.com/join. And now it's time for the Mental Strength Minute. Fortify your mind in 60 seconds or less. Today's topic is, it's okay to suck, but not to skip. If you're the type of person who leans towards all in or not at all, you might not feel like showing up when you know you're not at your best. If you don't have time to run the 5 miles on your plan, you might just push it to tomorrow instead of just running what you can. But then tomorrow comes and you're just too busy again. Instead, embrace the act of simply showing up, even when you suck. Allow yourself to run slower when you're tired or shorter when you don't have time. A less than ideal run is still a run, and consistency beats perfection every time. Of course, I'm not saying you should run every day without rest. Rest isn't skipping, it's part of your training.
Thank you for listening to The Planted Runner, part of the Evergreen Podcast Network. Don't forget that you can enter to win a free custom training plan for your next race and get featured on the show. Just write an Apple Podcast review and enter at theplantedrunner.com/PRLab. Of course, reviews are the #1 way to boost this show's reach, and it's a great way to tell me what you'd like to hear next because I read every single one. Have a great run today.